In this video, we're diving into the dramatic and sometimes shocking history of assassination attempts on U.S. presidents. From near misses to tragic successes, we'll explore the stories behind each attempt and the motives of the attackers. Andrew Jackson, the 7th President of the United States, served from 1829 to 1837. During his presidency, there was one assassination attempt on his life. On January 30th, 1835, Richard Lawrence attempted to assassinate President Andrew Jackson. This was the first such attempt on a sitting U.S. president. Lawrence, an unemployed English house painter, attacked the President Jackson as he left a funeral at the Capitol. Lawrence aimed and fired 2 pistols, but both misfired, possibly due to damp weather. Jackson, enraged, charged at Lawrence with his cane before the crowd subdued him. Prosecuted by Francis Scott Key, Lawrence was found not guilty by reason of insanity, believing himself to be King Richard III. He spent the rest of his life in an asylum. Some, including Jackson, suspected a political conspiracy behind the attempt. Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States, served from 1861 to 1865. During his presidency, there were 2 assassination attempts on his life. In 1864, President Abraham Lincoln survived an assassination attempt near the White House when a gunman's rifle misfired while he was riding to the soldiers' home. The shooter remained unidentified. Tragically, on April 14, 1865, Lincoln was not so fortunate. During a play at Ford's Theater, John Wilkes Booth, a Confederate sympathizer, shot Lincoln in the head with a pistol. Lincoln succumbed to his injuries the following day. Booth fled but was later captured and killed. This marked the first successful assassination of a sitting U.S. president. James Abram Garfield, the 20th President of the United States, served for only a few months in 1881. During this brief period, he was shot and ultimately succumbed to his injuries. On July 2, 1881, President James Abram Garfield was shot by Charles Julius Guiteau at the Baltimore and Potomac Railroad Station in Washington, D.C. Guiteau, having failed in various careers, turned to politics. He wrote and delivered a speech supporting Garfield, believing it won Garfield the presidency and expecting a diplomatic post in return. After being denied a consulship, Guiteau began plotting Garfield's assassination. He purchased a British Bulldog revolver, practiced shooting, and on July 2nd, he shot Garfield at close range. Garfield succumbed to his injuries 11 weeks later. Guiteau was found guilty and hanged on June 30th, 1882. William McKinley, the 25th President of the United States, served from 1897 until his assassination in 1901. On September 6, 1901, President William McKinley was shot at the Pan American Exposition in Buffalo, New York. McKinley had led America out of a recession, won the Spanish-American War and re-election, and he was about 6 months into his second term as president. On September 5th, McKinley spoke at the exposition about trade agreements. The next day, after visiting Niagara Falls, he returned for a round of public handshaking at the Temple of Music. Despite safety concerns, McKinley insisted on attending, believing no one would harm him. In the crowd was Leon Czolgosz, an anarchist radicalized by economic hardships. At 4:07 p.m., he approached McKinley with a revolver hidden under a handkerchief and shot him twice in the abdomen. McKinley was taken to a hospital, but doctors couldn't locate the second bullet. Despite initial optimism, he died a week later from gangrene caused by his wounds. William Howard Taft, the 27th President of the United States, served from 1909 to 1913. During his presidency, there was one significant assassination attempt. On October 16, 1909, President William Howard Taft and Mexican President Porfirio Diaz met in El Paso, Texas, and Ciudad Juarez, Mexico. This historic summit marked the first meeting between a U.S. and Mexican president and the first time a sitting U.S. president crossed the border into Mexico. During the summit in El Paso, security was a major concern due to assassination threats. The Texas Rangers, Mexican troops, Secret Service, FBI agents, and U.S. Marshals were deployed for protection. When the presidents were near the El Paso Chamber of Commerce, Julius Bergerson was discovered with a concealed palm pistol. He was quickly apprehended and disarmed, preventing the assassination attempt. Theodore Roosevelt, the 26th President of the United States, served from 1901 to 1909. On October 14, 1912, while running for a third term, Roosevelt was shot by John Flamming Schrank in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Roosevelt had finished a meal at the Hotel Gilpatrick and was heading to a speech at the Milwaukee Auditorium. As he stood in an open car, Schrank, a saloon keeper who believed that no president should serve 3 terms, shot him in the chest with a .38 revolver. The bullet was slowed by Roosevelt's steel eyeglass case and a thick folded copy of his speech, lodging in his chest muscle. Remarkably, Roosevelt insisted on delivering his speech, starting with, "Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know whether you fully understand that I have just been shot, but it takes more than that to kill a bull moose." He spoke for 90 minutes before seeking medical attention. The bullet was never removed, but Roosevelt recovered. Schrank was declared insane and committed to a mental hospital for life. Herbert Hoover, the 31st President of the United States, served from 1929 to 1933. During his presidency, there was an assassination attempt on his life. On November 19, 1928, while still president-elect, Hoover was on a goodwill tour of Latin America. In Argentina, anarchists led by Severino di Giovanni plotted to bomb Hoover's train as it traveled through Buenos Aires. Fortunately, the plot was discovered, and the attackers were arrested before they could carry out their plan. Hoover continued his tour without incident and later took office, leading the nation during the early years of the Great Depression. The attempt on his life was largely forgotten, overshadowed by the economic turmoil of his presidency. Franklin Delano Roosevelt, the 32nd President of the United States, served from 1933 to 1945. Shortly after he was elected, there was an assassination attempt on his life. On February 15, 1933, in Miami, Florida, President-elect Roosevelt was giving a speech from the back of an open car. Giuseppe Zangara, an unemployed bricklayer, fired 5 shots at Roosevelt. Though Roosevelt was not hit, Chicago Mayor Anton Cermak, standing next to him, was fatally wounded. Roosevelt remained calm and requested that Cermak be rushed to the hospital. Zangara was quickly subdued by the crowd and later convicted of murder after Cermak's death. He was executed in March 1933. Roosevelt went on to become one of the most influential presidents in U.S. history, leading the country through the Great Depression and World War II. Harry Truman, the 33rd President of the United States, served from 1945 to 1953. During his presidency, there were 2 assassination attempts on his life. The first attempt occurred on 1947. The Zionist paramilitary organization Lehi sent a bomb letter addressed to President. The Secret Service, alerted by British intelligence, intercepted and defused the letter bombs. The second attempt happened on November 1, 1950. 2 Puerto Rican nationalists, Oscar Collazo and Grazielio Torrezola, tried to kill Truman at the Blair House in Washington, where Truman was staying during White House renovations. As a result, 1 Secret Service agent and Torrezola were killed, and Collazo was captured. Collazo was sentenced to death, but Truman later commuted his sentence to life in prison. John Fitzgerald Kennedy, the 35th President of the United States, served from 1961 until his assassination in 1963. On November 22, 1963, while riding in a motorcade through Dallas, Texas, Kennedy was shot by Lee Harvey Oswald from the Texas School Book Depository. Oswald fired 3 shots, with 2 hitting Kennedy and fatally wounding him. Texas Governor John Connally, who was also in the car, was injured but survived. Kennedy was pronounced dead shortly after the shooting, and the event shocked the nation. Oswald was arrested later that day, but was killed 2 days later by nightclub owner Jack Ruby before he could be tried. The assassination of President Kennedy remains a pivotal and tragic moment in U.S. history, leading to widespread mourning and numerous investigations. Gerald Ford, the 38th President of the United States, served from 1974 to 1977. He faced 2 significant assassination attempts. The first attempt occurred on September 5, 1975, at the California State Capitol. Lynette Fromm, a member of the Manson family, aimed a Colt pistol at Ford, but failed to fire because there was no cartridge in the chamber. She was quickly restrained by the Secret Service and sentenced to life in prison, later released on August 14, 2009. Just 17 days later, on September 22, 1975, in San Francisco, Sarah Jane Moore fired a revolver at Ford from 40 feet away. Bystander Oliver Sipple grabbed Moore's arm, causing the shot to miss. Moore was arrested, tried, and sentenced to life, paroled on December 31, 2007. These attempts are the only known cases of women targeting a U.S. president. Jimmy Carter, the 39th President of the United States, served from 1977 to 1981. During his presidency, there was a potential assassination plot against him. On May 5, 1979, while Carter was giving a speech at the Civic Center Mall in Los Angeles, Raymond Lee Harvey, a drifter from Ohio, was arrested with a starter pistol near the event. Harvey claimed he was part of a 4-person plot to assassinate Carter using real guns. Harvey's role was to create a distraction with the starter pistol, while the other conspirators would carry out the assassination. However, no real weapons were found, and Harvey's story was met with skepticism. He was charged with carrying a concealed weapon, but was later released due to lack of evidence. This incident highlighted the ongoing security challenges faced by U.S. presidents. Ronald Reagan, the 40th President of the United States, served from 1981 to 1989. During his presidency, he survived a significant assassination attempt. On March 30, 1981, just 69 days into his presidency, Reagan was leaving the Washington Hilton Hotel after giving a speech. John Hinckley Jr., a disturbed individual, fired 6 shots at Reagan. One bullet ricocheted off the presidential limousine and struck Reagan in the chest, puncturing a lung and narrowly missing his heart. 3 others were wounded in the attack, including Press Secretary James Brady, who was left permanently disabled. Despite the severity of his injuries, Reagan was back to work within weeks. Hinckley was found not guilty by reason of insanity and was confined to a psychiatric hospital for over 3 decades. The attempt led to changes in presidential security and gun control advocacy, including the Brady Handgun Violence Prevention Act. George Herbert Walker Bush, the 41st President of the United States, served from 1989 to 1993. After leaving office, he faced an assassination attempt. On April 13, 1993, Kuwaiti authorities and the FBI uncovered a plot by men believed to be working for Saddam Hussein. They planned to assassinate Bush with a car bomb during his visit to Kuwait University. The plot was foiled, and the men were arrested. Among them, some claimed their confessions were coerced. A Kuwaiti court convicted all but one defendant. In response, President Bill Clinton ordered a missile attack on an Iraqi intelligence building in Baghdad. The plot was later used to justify the 2003 U.S. invasion of Iraq. While a CIA analysis suggested the plot might have been fabricated, the FBI and CIA had evidence implicating the Iraqi intelligence service. Bill Clinton, the 42nd President of the United States, served from 1993 to 2001. During his presidency, he faced 3 significant assassination attempts. On September 12, 1994, Frank Eugene Corder crashed a stolen Cessna into the White House lawn, aiming for the building. The crash caused minor damage, and Corder died in the attempt. On October 29, 1994, Francisco Martin Duran fired 29 shots at the White House, believing Clinton was outside. Tourists tackled Duran before anyone was hurt. He was sentenced to 40 years in prison. On November 24, 1996, during the APEC summit in Manila, Clinton's motorcade was rerouted after a bomb was found under a bridge. The plot was linked to Osama bin Laden. These attempts highlighted the ongoing threats faced by U.S. presidents. George Walker Bush, the 43rd President of the United States, faced 2 significant assassination attempts during his presidency from 2001 to 2009. On February 7, 2001, while Bush was in the White House, Robert W. Pickett fired several shots from outside the perimeter fence. A Secret Service agent shot Pickett in the knee, and he was arrested. Pickett pleaded guilty to a firearms violation and assaulting a federal officer, resulting in a 3-year sentence at a federal medical center, followed by 3 years of probation. On May 10, 2005, while Bush was speaking in Tbilisi, Georgia, Vladimir Arutyunian threw a live grenade towards the podium. The grenade, wrapped in a handkerchief, landed 61 feet away but did not detonate. Arutyunian escaped but was arrested in July 2005. He was sentenced to life imprisonment in January 2006. Barack Obama, the 44th President of the United States, served from 2009 to 2017. During his presidency, there were multiple assassination attempts. Here are the 3 most significant. In November 2011, Oscar Ramiro Ortega Hernandez, influenced by conspiracy theories, fired several rounds at the White House. No one was injured, but a window was broken. Ortega Hernandez was sentenced to 25 years in prison. In April 2013, a letter laced with ricin was sent to Obama. The Secret Service intercepted it before it reached him. James Everett Dutschke was arrested and sentenced to 25 years in prison. In October 2018, officials intercepted a series of pipe bombs mailed to several Democratic leaders, including Obama. Cesar Sayoc was charged with 65 felony counts related to the incident and sentenced to 20 years in prison. No one was injured, as many of the bombs were hoax devices. Donald Trump, the 45th President of the United States, faced multiple assassination attempts during his campaigns and presidency. Here are the 3 most significant. On June 18, 2016, during a Las Vegas rally, Michael Stephen Sanford, a British man, attempted to grab a police officer's pistol to shoot Trump. The officer subdued Sanford, who was arrested and expressed his desire to murder Trump. Sanford was sentenced to 12 months in prison and deported in 2017. On October 1, 2018, during his presidency, an envelope laced with ricin was sent to Trump, intercepted by mailing facilities. William Clyde Allen III, a Navy veteran, was arrested and charged with mailing threats against the president. On July 13, 2024, during his campaign, Thomas Matthew Crooks fired 8 shots at a Trump rally in Pennsylvania. Trump was injured in the ear, and Corey Comparator was killed while shielding his family. Crooks was killed, and 4 others were injured. That wraps up our look at the assassination attempts on U.S. presidents. From Andrew Jackson to Donald Trump, these events have shaped the security and resilience of our nation's leadership. If you enjoyed this deep dive into history, make sure to hit the like button, leave a comment below, and subscribe to Fun Facts for more intriguing stories. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.